It is.
There's nothing dark.
Oh boy.
All bright.
Are you ready for your story?
Yes. Can it be about my Thor hammer?
Sure.
Hammer?
The name of our story is going to be Thor's Special Day.
No, JJ's special day.
Thor and JJ's Special Day. So, as legend has it, one day that mischievous Loki was out playing tricks on people. And one time he found an old friend of the Aesir gods named JJ. Now, JJ was just a human, but Loki didn't know. What Loki didn't know is that JJ was also very clever and could figure out his tricks just as soon as he thought of them. So Loki's idea was to play a trick on JJ, and he was going to sit down and offer to paint her toenails, but instead of pink, he was going to paint them a hideous, dark, black color. And then he was going to laugh at her. And that was his plan. But JJ sat there, and she let him do it. And before he put his paint on her toenails, she put butter on her toenails. And so he kept trying to paint and paint and paint, but the paint just kept sliding right off. And he's going, "Why doesn't this work?" And JJ said, "I don't know, but it appears that you are incapable of painting toenails. You must feel terrible about that." And he said, "I do." And he started crying.
Like a baby.
Like a baby. And JJ just said, "Maybe you need to go to toddler school." And
I
he
was
said,
I was a trickster too.
"Yeah." And he said, "Fine, I'm leaving." And so he went to try and play his trick on the dwarves. And when he got there, the dwarves said, "What are you doing here, trickster?" And he said, "I was sent by the all-powerful Thor to gather a gift of toenail polish that's butterproof." And they said, "We don't think that that's true." And he said, "Did I say Thor? I meant JJ." Oh, and the dwarves were like, "Oh, well, in that case, we better make some. But first, we demand that Thor come and see us." What?
I want me to have a clever trick so it can be waterproof and it's paint proof. Because I'm a really clever trickster. Pretend I'm clever, more clever than Loki.
Yes, you are indeed.
Actually, my name is Avalanche. Because I was as fast
Avalanche.
I was as fast as an avalanche.
Oh,
So you couldn't see me because I blended into the snow.
Oh, okay. So Thor got to the dwarves and said to them, "JJ has demanded a butterproof nail polish." And they said, "Well, we will not make anything without your brother's consent." And so then he had to go all the way back to Thor and ask to get toenail polish made. And he said, "What? To get what made?" And he started laughing at Loki because Loki was asking for toenail polish. And he said, "I didn't know you painted your nails, you little girly girl." And then Loki was like, "Well, it's not really for me. It's so that I could get JJ to paint her, let me paint her nails, and they'd stick because she put butter on them. So I need butterproof toenail polish." And Thor said, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll let you do it if you can have the dwarves build me a special weapon." And so he went back to the dwarves and he said, "Thor demands that you build him the best weapon in all of the 9 realms." And they said, "Yeah, we can do that. Would he like toenail clippers?" And Loki's like, "I don't think that makes for a good weapon." And the dwarves said, "Well, it seems to be one according to the airlines." And then Loki said, "Ha ha, very funny. Make a real weapon." So they thought and they thought, and they said, "I'll tell you what. We are going to make a hammer for Thor. But if we make it successfully, then you don't get your toenail polish." And he said, "Okay." And in his mind, he thought, "Well, I'll just trick them." And so they started to begin work on it. And one of the dwarves was pounding the hammer out with pounding the steel, and the other one was blowing the bellows. And he said to his brother, whatever you do, don't stop pumping the fire. I need this to be full force." And so he was pumping and pumping, but meanwhile, Loki turned into a butterfly and flew all the way over to where the brother was pumping the bellows. And then he came up to the brother and started tickling his nose with a feather. And the brother was trying his hardest not to let go of the bellows and kept pumping and pumping, when all of a sudden, choo! And he let go of the bellows on accident. And the other brother that was pounding the steel said, "No, I can't believe you stopped. What's wrong with you?" And all of a sudden they had the hammer, but it only had a little tiny handle on it, just a wee little bitty handle. He's like, "Well, this is never going to work, but we'll have to give it to Thor just as it is." And so they did. They took it to Thor, and Thor, as mad as they thought they would be, actually loved it. He said, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And so Loki then did get his toenail polish, because the dwarves didn't quite finish the hammer, but Thor was very happy. And so Loki got the toenail polish, and he went back to JJ down on Earth and said, "I am here to do your nails, Miss JJ." And she said, "Fine, what color is it?" And he said, "It's army green." And she said, "No, yuck, that's gross." And he said, "Well, I have black. Would you like that?" And she said, "Not a chance, buddy. Do you have any pink?" And he said, "I have something close to pink." And she said, "Okay, do that." And so he pulled out, and he started laughing. He pulled out the black one because she wasn't looking, and he's like, hey, I said it was close to pink." And so he starts painting her toenails, but guess what?
What?
Boom, slid right off when you said, "I thought this was butterproof toenail polish." And she just starts laughing and laughing at him. And she said, "I don't have butter, buddy. I'm using olive oil. Nanny, boo, boo."
I never say nanny, boo, boo. Unless somebody's trying to catch me.
That's true.
That's the only time.
And then she said, "Look over there." And he said, "Where?" And she said, "Ha ha, made you look. Now you're in a baby book." And then he started crying. And she said, "Why don't you go to toddler school, little Loki?" And he cried even more. And she said, "Well, okay, I'm just kidding. I don't want to be mean to you anymore, Loki. Can we be friends?" And he said, "Really?" And she said, "No, you're the mischievous one. We can't be friends." And started laughing again at him. And he said, "Oh, I'll be better, I promise." And she said, "You promise?" He said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you pinky promise?" And he said, "Ooh, I don't know about that, but for you, I will." And from that day on, Loki never tried to trick JJ again, because he knew that she was more clever than him.
But since we became best buddies, we got to trick the other gods.
That's true. You
But
did. Yeah.
one day Thor got a trickster thing too. So he came in with Loki and I. So then we were all silly. So then we tricked the gods.
Oh boy.
Everybody was like, And then they started crying because they were in a dress.
Oh my goodness. You made them all wear dresses? That's funny.
I made all of the boys wear dresses.
That's hilarious, JJ.
And then they were crying like babies, and then we all said together, why don't you guys go to toddler class? And then they started crying even harder.
I love it. All right, kiddos, say goodnight.
Peep, poop, peep, peep, toilet.